Everybody that is in attendance. Welcome to the Campus CyberCast with FortifyData and Pima Community College. I'm Marshall England. I'll be the moderator and host here for today's podcast. I'm also joined by my colleagues, Eric Smith, who's the VP of Technical Services Delivery, who's got quite a really good relationship with all of our customers and clients, and kind of has a pulse on what they're seeing and what they're doing. And then Victor Gamera, who is the founder and CEO of FortifyData. He himself is a former CISO. I had the idea for this platform. And, he will talk a bit about the cyber threat forecast report we have for higher education today. And then last but not least, we have our special guest today, Isaac Abbs from Pima Community College. You are the Assistant Vice Chancellor for IT and CIO at the institution. Is that right?
That is correct.
Yeah, and we were just talking here before we went live that this is one of the largest or second largest community college in Arizona. What's the enrollment?
Enrollment, unique head count is in the the low 30,000, FTE equivalent around 11, 12,000.
Wow, that is, that's bigger than some of the other smaller independent colleges, four-year institutions that we also have for clients as well. So. But the reason we're here today is to talk about the higher education cyber threat and vulnerability forecast report that we've been publishing. This is kind of the second month that we've done it. I'll just quickly share that for folks that haven't yet seen it. And Victor, if you want to just take it away and kind of explain a bit about the rationale for it, and I can certainly scroll through and get to it about the importance of it.
Sure. Thank you. As you all know. FortifyData does tremendously well solving a major problem for higher ed institutions. So we've made great strides at providing significant value, not just from a technology capability standpoint, but also we want to leverage insights that we're getting from existing clients, their third parties that are being assessed within our platform. And these are tens of thousands of companies within the solution, and the data provides great insights, as I mentioned, to the higher ed institution or the higher ed space. So we've decided to leverage this data set on a monthly basis to generate certain types of reports, more specifically this threat forecast report to the higher ed community, especially security and IT professionals within the space, to understand what they need to be primarily focused on in the short term as well as in the long term. But these reports are going to be generated on a monthly basis based on the data set and the knowledge and the insights that we're gathering, both from our technology as well as publicly available sources. So this is our second report. Is that right, Marshall?
Yeah, that's right.
And our goal is obviously, in addition to providing these insights and the data set that we're accumulating and providing, this sort of guidance on what to fix, what to look out for, the issues primarily focused on the higher ed space. We're going to invite certain subject matter experts in the higher ed space, because I think it's very important for key individuals who live, breathe, and the cybersecurity programs for higher ed institutions, where they understand the pain points, they understand the issues around live and all the other things, and they can provide what they're seeing on their side. They can provide insights on what they're seeing on their side, what they're doing in tandem with our reports to help improve their security posture, and it could benefit other colleges and universities. So long story short, this report is for the month of October. So being a forecast report, we accumulate the data set that we've acquired the month prior in terms of KEVs, vulnerabilities that we've seen primarily within the higher ed space, and then we package all that together to provide a level of insight specifically for higher ed institutions. Now, of course, these are vulnerabilities across systems that are widely used across other organizations within other industries. So there's going to be some relevance primarily, in that regard. But our intent, the intention of this report is to primarily focus on the higher ed space. So the majority of the findings, be it, being extracted from technologies that are primarily used in higher ed space, like LMS systems or, whatever types of technologies that are in. Again, these technologies, Microsoft, Adobe, and so forth, are widely used. The information might be skewed primarily to just the higher ed space. So I think that's very important to be aware of. So the report primarily looks at September's information across vulnerabilities, presence across various technologies within higher ed institutions and their third parties within our platform. CISA presented 26 KEVs, which are known exploited vulnerabilities, for the month of September, of which we identified some technologies were significantly present, which we'll dive into in later parts of the report, which we've labeled as top 5 KEVs, primarily for the higher ed space. And again, these top 5 vulnerabilities are primarily because it's not saying that they're top 5, meaning that they could be easily exploited. We already know that CISA has already explained that to us, but we are saying that they are the most prominent within the higher ed space. So if you work at a college or a higher ed institution, and you have maybe you have some level of exposure with of these top 5 vulnerabilities, what we label top 5, maybe we should change the name to top common, most common. We're essentially stating that these vulnerabilities are probably should probably be on the top of your list in terms of remediation efforts, right? And across the technologies that we've identified, here are the technologies that are predominantly present within higher ed institutions. So we're seeing a great deal of progress, WhatsApp Gold, which is when we're talking about potential ransomware attacks, these are known to have ransomware campaigns associated with them. I'm sure Eric would talk a little bit about ransomware campaigns and what to do about that within the industry, because he has some great deal of knowledge, especially, Eric, you'd mentioned a few moments ago about the event that you attended, where they were talking about ransomware attacks. I think that'll be primarily beneficial for colleges to understand in terms of mitigation techniques and so forth. But we're seeing 2 pieces of technology, Linux as well as Progress, where predominantly had ransomware campaigns associated with them. And obviously the 2 most common technologies, Microsoft and Adobe. So if you're using, any sort of Adobe products, PDF, everyone uses PDF. But if you're not patching these systems, obviously these will become problems for you within the next few weeks or months.
Well, some of it's not even their PDF. Some of it's people still running Flash player.
Right.
It's crazy.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think this breakdown was what of the 26 that were identified that CISA identified that we also found active amongst the data set that we have of higher education institutions. And then I think the prominent ones I think you listed here across these specific known CVE numbers as a KEV.
Right. So again, these reports are really to emphasize the need for implementing proactive measures, such as patching, encryption, having data backups, and testing those backups, the usual things that we discuss from a security perspective. But we will cherry pick on a month-by-month basis to let the higher ed community know what they need to primarily focus on a month-to-month basis. So that's, I know that was a long-winded answer, Marshall, but just want to give an overview of what the report means.
No, that makes sense. I mean, so Isaac, I mean, now you're the recipient of information like this. You've got a KEV report in addition to, everything else. How do you and your team think about prioritizing KEVs as part of your process? I think you probably extrapolate that into general 0 days responses as well. If you give us your perspective on that.
Sure. I think the first thing I'm going to start with is I find it fascinating that it's 2024 and we're still talking about arguably one of the most basic things you need to do in a security perspective, right? We're not talking about anything advanced. We're talking about the basics, patch management. It's definitely something we've been much more aggressive with over the past few years. We've had to be because now everything's got a new vulnerability every day. This list here is your top 5. The reality is we're dealing with hundreds, if not more. What do you do, right? And so for the longest time, at best, we had, I think, what a lot of organizations do, look at the CVSS score. Is it above this? Immediate patch. Is it between this number? Wait till our next, patch cycle. And I think it's interesting, right? You most of the top 5 are Windows, OS based ones. And, we have automatic Windows updates. And I think for the most part, you're safe unless Windows and CrowdStrike have a problem and then you break all your systems. But the reality is, with your your endpoints, you can run, updates whenever, and the likelihood that you do any significant damage is relatively small. You start moving into the infrastructure, not quite the same, right? Unless you have your systems all set up for where you can fail them over and patch at the same time, you're now impacting the business and having to take systems down. And if the patching doesn't work right, now your system's not coming back up and the business is down. And so, the ability to accurately prioritize based on CVSS score, but then also what is the impact to the business? And I think that's the key. It's like, oh, this is a 9.5, but the data on it is non-business critical. Right. Do I need to focus on that one, or should I focus on the 7.2 that's mission critical? That's hard to do on paper, right? It's hard to do on paper, hard to do with just a CVSS score. So, surprise, surprise, a year ago, we found FortifyData, and that's been a game changer because it allows us to do exactly that. It's no longer just what is your CVSS score. It's, is this being exploited out in the wild? Is this an asset that you deem highly valuable or not, right? It gives us that flexibility to say, hey, this is our ERP system. These are the crown jewels. I need to know if anything is going on here. Or, hey, this is just a basic, even our website, right? We can rebuild our website. It's mostly static content. And so that ability to prioritize, list that top 10, those most common vulnerabilities are those high value ones, has been a game changer for us because it's allowed us to evolve our paper process to a process that's data driven, right? And we all talk about data driven decisions. We all tout data driven decisions. I would argue we probably don't do that very well at times. This allows us to do that very well. And it's, we improved our score within a first few months from not very good to really good because it allowed us to focus on what was really critical and what was really important.
Well, and something to add to that, Isaac, is one of the things that, if I recall, that we helped you with was not just highlighting or not just the prioritization, but also the awareness of making you aware, finding assets that were previously unknown. Yep. And getting a comprehensive view of all of the vulnerabilities that you had, some of which you were unaware of.
Absolutely. It's enabled us to identify our complete attack surface. I'm sure we'll talk about vendors, so I won't jump into there, but as the attack surface has moved from within our 4 walls to somebody else's 4 walls, that visibility is equally important.
Yeah. Can you comment real quick about the velocity at which you tackle this? We come across other institutions that still manage on a monthly basis, and they try and incorporate, the latest KEVs as part of that monthly cycle. But, you just said it's not just 5, it's hundreds or thousands, Can you comment on kind of?
I mean, the beauty now is we get updates on a weekly basis. And I think, with our renewal and some new enhancements, we're going to be able to get even more real-time information. But right now on a weekly basis, we get any new findings, right? So here are application findings, here are infrastructure findings. here are our lovely presence on the dark web, which I'm sure we'll talk about more later as well. But the bottom line is, on a weekly basis, we get those, hey, this is the latest vulnerability, this is an issue. We're able to see, is it in our top 10? Where does it fall? And immediately start taking action, right?
Yeah.
It's gamifying it, right? I don't want my score to drop from week to week. I want it to go up. And so it's, it allows us to, more readily fix those vulnerabilities, because we need to, but also it, to keep that score up, right? It gives us something to track and kind of, like I said, gamify.
So one of the updates I'm looking forward to in one of the future versions of the report is kind of the survivability analysis. We've highlighted what are the KEVs present and prominent within higher ed. How long is it taking folks to remediate those and get them out of there? And so I think that's a very telling sign. So back to the situation where you're an organization doing something on a monthly basis. Best case, you picked up a KEV the day after it was published. Worst case, you've been open for 3 to 4 weeks. Behind. Yeah. And a month behind on those things. Yeah. So,
and they're popping all the time, right? I mean, we're in this new age of every day there's something new. And so I don't think monthly works. I mean, I don't know how long weekly will work, right? But monthly, you can't go monthly anymore.
Yeah. So with the increase in velocity, have you guys encountered any challenges with remediation or working with, a different stakeholder at a different campus that might be in charge of certain assets? I mean,
for us, we're lucky in that IT is centralized, so we're not decentralized. So we it's all in our domain, and so it's about capacity, right? And once again, I get back to the beauty of, you have to make a data-driven decision. You can't patch them all. Which ones do you patch? This allows us to surface the important ones, get the important ones done, and then as time permits, get to those less critical ones. I mean, we want to try to patch it all, but you got to start with, what is the most important first.
Well, Isaac, something I actually read in a Gartner report about a month ago is they said that, and not just in higher ed, but across the entire business space everywhere, that the average organization only remediates 10 to 15% of their vulnerabilities every month.
Yeah. I mean, Cisco got popped, right? It's not surprising. It's not a matter of when. It's not a matter of if, it's when. And so, what you can do on the defense to prevent as much as possible, or on the offense, I guess I would say, you got to focus on those key priorities.
So I've got a question, Isaac.
Yeah.
In those scenarios where, just like the report that's issued out on a monthly basis, or maybe a CISO at a college identifies a critical vulnerability within the FortifyData or elsewhere, and they need to fix those issues within a timely manner. How do you go about implementing a quick patch with an effective rollback plan on a critical resource that is mission critical for the college, just to limit downtime or potential issues?
So I think it starts with awareness way before you actually have this happen. Almost like a ransomware event. You got to be prepared before it, because if I'm not having conversations with the board or the rest of my peers on the executive leadership team about the importance of security and the importance of what we do, I can't take down a system without getting a lot of flack because there's some high vulnerability. But if people understand and they're aware, right, I can send out, hey, I'm sorry, huge vulnerability in our ERP. We got to take it down. And it's going to be down for 2 hours. I get it's going to impact the business, but we all want to be able to show up to work tomorrow and be able to work. Right. People accept it. I'm not going to say they always like it, right? We're not in the business of always making everybody happy. As Nick Saban says, if I don't want to be in the business of making everybody happy, go sell ice cream, right? I'm not in that business. Right. But people understand and they appreciate it and they accept it. And so I think that's where it really comes in, because there's times where I'm sorry, Log4j, a perfect example. We're taking this down. We got to, keep this thing. It's a 0-day CVS-10 perfect score. There is no option. And so I think it's that educational piece becomes extremely important, so that when you have to take down a system during operating hours and impact the business, people understand the why.
And in those situations where, it's like a vendor, I mean, are the vendors sympathetic to it? I mean, their teams are probably working 24/7 to help remediate it as well. Have you come into situations where the vendors just never been able to close that gap, and now you take that experience and put it into future contract language?
Well, there you go. So I think, unfortunately, we have a lot of situations where the vendors are not getting there as quickly as we want them to be. It's pretty cool. We have a brand new CISO, actually 2 months, so still relatively brand new, but he's leveraging the third-party management piece of FortifyData, and he started now aggressively reaching out to companies. I've been shocked how well the vendors have received it, right? I mean, we've had vendors say, hey, thank you, or we're aware, and this is coming out in our next release. We've had some vendors that have been slow that I thought should be faster, but bottom line is we have visibility into the vendor space, and I would argue our vendors are not nearly as fast as you would expect them to be, given that this is the business they're in, but having that visibility helps. And then to your point, as we're not seeing the traction we want, absolutely this will impact contract language going forward, because like I said, our attack surface has moved from inside of our four walls. Oftentimes, a lot of it is in someone else's four walls, and we have to protect ourselves contractually. We saw it with Move It, right? The whole Move It breach, we were pretty impacted through the National Student Clearinghouse, and then trying to figure out, okay, who's responsible, who's doing what, right? I think they handled it well and took a lot of ownership, but I'm not sure contractually they had to take the ownership they did. They did the right thing.
And in terms of that vendor evaluation going forward, the higher education community has its own questionnaire called the HECVAT, the Higher Education Community Common Vendor Toolkit. Where does that play in your process?
Yeah, so HECVAT is not our primary source. It's the backup source. From a primary standpoint, we like the SOC 2 Type 2. That's kind of where we start. If somebody doesn't have it, we'll take a HECVAT. Obviously, if we are sharing PII, I need a full HECVAT. If we're not sharing PII, I can do a HECVAT light. But those are the documents the security team starts with when they assess any software vendor. The beauty, once again, FortifyData, being able to move that stuff into the platform, manage the questionnaires through there, be able to refresh them as needed. That ability to also leverage that third-party scanning to verify what can they stand behind what they said in those questionnaires, I think is amazing. But yes, so for us, HECVAT's not the bread and butter. It's kind of the backup if all else fails. But and those are interesting. I mean, you're dealing with salespeople who are filling those out.
Right.
That's where I think having eyes behind the document is extremely critical, because they're making a sell, so they now have this canned document and they're going to send it to you. And shame on me if I just trust that, having the ability to put scanning onto those assets we deem most critical and being able to see their score, their vulnerabilities. And then, like I said earlier, being able to reach out and hopefully you have the right relationships where they take, they're willing to work with you to close those gaps is critical.
Yeah.
But we know they're all not. The big dogs.
I got a question, Isaac. What is your advice for colleges that don't have, adequate resources to actually launch a third-party risk management program or a vendor risk management program, and they're not aware of tools such as FortifyData, and maybe they just don't have the budgets, or for whatever reason they don't have an effective vendor risk management program? Are there any quick wins beyond HECVAT that they could leverage in order to gain the right visibility, right?
Yeah, I think without a tool, it's going to be hard to gain the visibility, but I think there are a lot of tools, a lot of free tools out there that will allow you to at least get questionnaires out to vendors in an automated fashion, get results back, be able to do something with that. So you're at least able to get data on face value. But that's probably as best as you're going to get for $0.
Right.
I think everybody doesn't have budget until an event happens, and then boy, they have unlimited budget.
Right.
That would, by the way, Isaac, that was a common theme at that panel I was at in Southern California, is that nearly everybody, the budget was constrained. They knew they had massive gaps. they knew. And I asked every one of the panelists, I said, when the event happened, were you the least bit surprised? And to a man, every single one of them said, no. We're not only were not surprised, we pretty much accurately predicted where the bad guys would get in and how they would do what they do. And they were pretty much spot on. And then strangely enough, immediately after the event, the budget coffers opened up, which is really depressing when you think about it.
It goes back to the point I was making earlier around that education piece, right? I mean, things like GLBA are forcing conversations between myself, my CISO, and the board. But the bottom line is that is the time to explain the state of the security program. What do we need? How are we using what we have? And really educating them, because at the end of the day, like you said, you don't want people to give you the budget after the bad stuff happens. You want to be as proactive as possible. We all know there's going to be an event, but if you're prepared, the damage is a lot less. And so, you know, this is, I would say, for those who say they don't have budget, they probably do. This is where you have to start having those conversations.
Isaac, here's a little thing I've discussed with some other schools as well that they found useful in this respect. To secure budget, or at least to emphasize the importance of a good information security process. And that is, you know, obviously we provide a score, but we also provide a baseline. So you can see how you're performing relative to your peers in industry. And as you mentioned earlier, the score kind of gamifies things. You said you don't want your score to go down, of course not, but also you don't want your score to be lower than everybody else's.
Absolutely.
And especially when you start talking to, you know, the chancellors and things of that nature, if you can draw that distinction and say, look, the industry average is 50% higher than where we are. We are pretty bad. And as we all know, bad guys, they don't tend to go, well, if they have a choice between a target that's got pretty good cybersecurity and one that's got atrocious cybersecurity, all other values being equal, which one are they going to target? They're going to target the easier one.
Yeah, it's like if I leave my door unlocked and my neighbor doesn't, who's going to get robbed, right? Most
absolutely.
Likely. I mean, it's
absolutely.
Like, it's, you know.
So by having a low score, you know, you make yourself a more attractive target, especially since they're not looking at you in isolation. They are looking at you with relationship to your peers and deciding who they're going to attack. Yeah. So having that ability to highlight that information has helped people secure budgets.
Yep, absolutely.
So you touched on another topic I wanted to get from you, and that was, you know, awareness of kind of the other stakeholders and higher ups, you know, whether it be chancellors, boards of regents, presidents, things like that. What's your advice for other CIOs or security folks on how to have a really good working relationship with those other stakeholders?
I mean, it starts with routine communication, but I think, you know, the beauty, if you will, of some of these, you know, forced compliances, GLBA being a big one, it forces you to have at least that annual conversation. So there's the door open, right? Hey, I have to do this or we can't issue financial aid. So that at least starts the conversation. I think what becomes huge is how you leverage that opportunity, right? The board doesn't want to sit here and hear a bunch of dry material, right? They hear that all day long. And so you really have to be able to tell that story, the story of cybersecurity, where we are, where we need to be, how we're trying to get there. And that creates that opportunity. But if you just go and bore them with statistics and charts and data, it's just noise. And so it's really that engaging in that opportunity. They all know of ransomware. They've all heard of ransomware. A lot of times they're going to ask, what are we going to do? Are we prepared? I think that's that right opportunity, right? That's the door open to have those conversations about what happens, what are we going to do, what's our stance, pay, not pay when it comes to the event. And also the opportunity to say, in order to prevent this, we are aware of these vulnerabilities. We need budget to plug those gaps. I think because of the relationship we've built with the board and leadership and the trust, and I think that's an important one, there's not much there they don't let us do if we need it, right? That comes with trust, because you're, you know, it's on my board here, trust drips in and pours out, right? So it takes a lot to build it up. It takes one bad event to lose it. And so I really always emphasize that to the team. We're fortunate to do a lot of the things we're due, but we're one event away from losing all of that. And so
I think you're one of the few colleges that's fortunate enough to even have a CISO, as well as, you know, someone with, you know, at your level. who understands security, takes it very seriously. And so what would be your advice to other colleges that don't necessarily have, other, security professionals? Because we run across many universities that, they're still trying to justify the need for a CISO, right? Or the board doesn't, they have the enterprise security person or even the CIO that believes, they're assuming that role of a CISO, and they have various products. And how do you go about advising those individuals, especially like you said, being able to articulate the story to the board instead of just going metric-driven reports? What will be your advice to them?
Yeah, I mean, been there, done that. In a previous role in a local municipality, I was the CISO, CIO, all of it, right? So I think it goes back to, I think you have to have, the top level IT leadership has to be aware, right? Am I the CISO? No. Do I feel I have to be almost as aware as the CISO? Absolutely, because it still all rolls uphill, right? I still got to tell that story. And so I think, the best thing you could do is educate yourself. You have to be aware. You have to understand security at a high level, but also, the less security staff you have, the lower you have to get down and really understand it, because you have to be able to tell that story. When I was in local government, and leverage those incidents. There's no bad, don't let a good incident go to waste.
Right.
When I was in local government, we still had on-prem exchange and the lovely Hafnium stuff, right? That was my opportunity to really start. That was my opportunity to get multi-factor authentication, right? Single sign-on, right? Though that was the opportunity, because it's like, look, this is how we got exploited. I now have to shut everything down. The only way we can bring this back up is with this type of control. And it really started that opportunity. Now, we were fortunate enough to catch it early enough that it didn't do any damage. But the reality, and you're not always that lucky.
Right.
But the reality is, I think you have to wear both hats. And, I'm fortunate to have a CISO. I also was without one for about 1.5 years. So, between my chief technology officer and myself, we really built up a security program from nothing to something, right? And he handled all of the technology side. I handled a lot of the policy procedure. But through a lot of cost savings on the infrastructure side, we went from a $0 security budget to $1 million plus security budget. That was not through additional funding. That was through savings and negotiation. So you can do it, right? But it takes forward thinking. It takes strategy, and you got to be willing to negotiate with vendors, right? That's a big one. You got to find that money somewhere.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Great. That's super awesome.
Yeah.
Well, something else to throw in on that real quick, Isaac, is you mentioned the whole, don't let an incident go to waste. It doesn't have to actually be your incident as well.
Absolutely.
Because in many cases, like I said, the event I attended a few weeks ago, there was a college there that was literally taken down for about 3 weeks during enrollment. And that's something I wanted to highlight too, is it's not just the vulnerabilities and what they target, it's when they do it, because they know very well when your enrollment starts, they know when the school year starts. Another thing that they brought up that was very surprising to me, I didn't think about it up front, but a lot of colleges, when they get new endowments, they announce it publicly. They say, oh yeah, we got this big grant for whatever. Okay, well, guess what you've just done? You've told the bad guys you've got money.
Yep.
And they target you because of that.
It's interesting how innocent some things are that could be problematic. I mean, just yesterday I was working with internal audit, and he was like, hey, take a look at our quarterly newsletter I want to send out. And it was about IT security and all this stuff. And it just is ingredient list of everything we have and the type of data we have. And we're like, yeah, I get the intent here, but we need to chunk that all out, because I mean, yes, people could easily, infer that that's the type of data we have, but there's no reason to put the laundry list out there. And so, and you were talking about, bad guys, their timing is their timing. So we were doing a simulated phishing test. It was at the beginning of the school. People failed. I had someone who was really upset because it was about Amazon, and I went and changed all my Amazon accounts and all this kind of stuff. And why would you do this at the beginning of the semester? And it was like, number one, it was just our timing. But guess what the bad guys are going to do? They know
they're going to wait. They're going to wait until what you're
exactly doing. And we weren't even being strategic. It just, the cadence fell when it fell. But bottom line is, there's no way, like, we can't make this convenient. That's not how the world works. So
Very
yeah.
good.
Yeah.
Well, no discussion's complete without talking about artificial intelligence and AI. So I'm sure you have been hearing about AI from vendors, from probably some of your faculty and students. So just kind of walk us through your experience, what you're looking at, what you're seeing and hearing about AI, and kind of how you and Pima are going to approach AI.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. I think the one thing that's not talked about in AI a whole lot, especially on the academic side, is this whole enrollment cliff, right? For the first time ever, the 18 to 24-year-old population is going to start shrinking. So what does that mean? Well, it means two things. It means there's going to be less 18 to 24-year-olds to hire, but it also means, keep going along and we're going to be producing a smaller and smaller workforce. So what do, right? This is where I think AI becomes a really awesome tool. I want to make it clear tool, because you keep hearing AI like it's something beyond a tool. It's a tool, but it becomes a great tool to close these gaps, right? And as you can imagine, in my role, I get asked to talk a lot about AI. I'll be talking at a conference next week about AI and really what it is and how you can leverage it. But as an institution, as a college, we have a group that's been put together, a lot of faculty led, on how are we going to approach this. And I think obviously we're approaching it from the academic side. We have a brand new chancellor. He's been here a couple months. I was talking to him on Friday. He's really excited where he comes from. They implemented an AI program of study, applied AI. That's something he wants to do here. So how are we preparing and training our students to be ready for this autonomous age? I happened to be, last week I was at Adobe and they had an event, their EduMax event, and it was about AI and some really cool opportunities to get this type of technology in front of students, not from a gimmicky perspective, but from a real world application perspective. And that's, I think, part of our approach has been really deliberate, arguably a little slow, but I think it's because we want this to be a success for our students. So when they graduate, they have the skills they need in this new age. And that's coming out of any program. I think that's kind of the beauty of some of the stuff Adobe provides, is it's not specific to this. It can be leveraged across the board. And so, obviously from a security perspective, we've been in AI in machine learning for a long time, right? We have tools and things that are really helping us there, but I think it's now getting it into the masses with this generative space, but also being methodical about it in terms of a safety perspective. And really, we've come up with guiding principles and really trying to get this information out to the college community about how you should use it. Because, right, it can analyze my entire class roster. Well, guess what happens if you upload that class roster with a bunch of PII? You just thrown that out there. Now, surprise, what are we seeing? I mean, proof now that ChatGPT is being leveraged by bad actors. And so, having to do it in a way where you're being secure about it, you're being smart about it, but you're also not falling behind, that's a challenge. And I would argue we're a little on the behind side, but we're catching up quickly. We have a lot of really good ideas. I think now it's getting that into a roadmap and a strategy and start taking more and more action.
Do you see using?
Go ahead.
I was just going to ask, do you see using multiple different providers, different AI providers, or are you guys thinking about centralizing around one?
What we're looking to do is centralize on a catalog. Now that catalog is probably going to have multiple providers because there's going to be multiple use cases. But one thing we've been adamant about this whole time is AI should be solving a real problem, right? And that's, you're fighting to solve a real problem, and this is fun to play around with, right? And in a tool set that is arguably, they're talking about AI is going to account for 4% of the GDP. The military accounts for 3%. There's a lot of money being spent. We want the money to be spent wisely. I was having this conversation with the chancellor because he was like, do we have Copilot? I said, well, at $40 a month per person, that's a lot of money for, I think, a lot of play. And that's where we are trying to figure out what is going to be the tool. But it's going to come from multiple providers. It's just going to have to. The space is changing way too quickly. And who's the leader today is not the leader tomorrow. So really trying to standardize on that catalog.
Okay.
Well, the comment I was going to throw in there, Isaac, and I'm curious what you think about this as well, is that also with the realization that AI is a maturing, not mature, maturing technology, and as you said, there's a lot of shakeup and consolidation that's likely to come in the future. The winners are not yet determined, but most importantly is as you said, is to pick what exactly are you going to get AI to do? And it's very, very important to make sure that you understand the limitations of it as well, because again, I was at a conference or earlier this year in Spain, and where there were a number of people talking about AI and how they plan to apply it. And they were going to apply it in ways that it was going to be making some extremely business critical decisions for them.
Mm-hmm.
And my question to them was, at what level of inaccuracy are you willing to accept before you say, well, I'm not comfortable with this unless a human goes behind it and double checks it? And what was shocking to me is nobody had even considered that. It's like, well, no, the AI said it's cool. Why should I have to have a human touch it? And I'm like, have you looked at some of the hallucinations that come out of this stuff from time to time?
I think slide 2 of my presentation is it's not magic, right? Number one, it's
Yeah.
not magic. You better understand how it works and what it can do, so then you can apply it appropriately. And I emphasize tool, right? Because what other tool do we just let run wild and do its own thing? We don't, right? It's got to be approached in a similar fashion. The hype, unfortunately, behind this has created craziness, right? And it's amazing, it's magic. And I mean, I've had people come to me and say, I want to run my whole business through AI. And it's like, why? Like, what problem are you trying to solve? I don't know, it's cool. It's like, okay, until it's not, right? And
yeah. Very cool. Well, we're almost at the time, and I did want to have a little fun with playing a little Would You Rather, Isaac, or the best worst idea type situation. So, a couple of situational analysis here for you, and you mentioned this earlier, but would you rather detect an insider threat, an employee is sneaking out sensitive data and has been for months? Can you find the insider, or would you rather defend against a ransomware attack? And how do you navigate that scenario? If you're allowed to pay a ransom, do you? Or how do you go about doing it? Which would you rather do?
It's a good question. I'll tell you where I think we're more prepared for today is to deal with a ransomware event than insider threat. Fortunately, knock on wood, that is less of a, should say less of a concern. It's less of something we've had to deal with. So I think, from a maturity standpoint, we're way more mature at, I think, being prepared for a ransomware than an insider threat. So I'm just going to go that route because it's probably not what you were expecting. So I'll throw that wrench in there. But also to say, I think we've come a long way, and I'm proud of what we've done and how we've positioned ourselves. Especially as we're maturing along that zero trust model, and really, I think, doing some really cool things in the higher ed space to be ready for if and when that event comes. Right. Yeah. And we've caught it trying to come before. So it's, Well,
that's good. Good to hear. One other one on that note, would you rather then deal with a major security breach once a year, or would you rather just have smaller security issue headaches every month?
I'd rather deal with a breach once a year. Just eliminate the headaches, because they just keep coming.
Oh, and right before budget time.
Yeah, right. I mean, the reality is they're just going to always constantly come. I mean, one thing we didn't touch on, but is part of this report, and I'll just throw it out there, is, we're seeing massive, phishing campaigns. I think we're in a period where it's crazy right now. And it's like, well, why is it crazy? Well, one of the great things of FortifyData provides us are dark web scans. And we are seeing just insane amounts of, mostly students, some staff. It's not their credentials getting taken from us. It's their credentials that they're using. They're reusing their email address to sign up for coupons, and, and the likelihood that their password is the same, right? For a business email compromise, we're seeing an insane amount right now. Hits on the dark web. I mean, we're seeing a lot of companies get exploited, big dumps happening. And so what's going on? They're leveraging that to target phishing campaigns. And so if this has allowed us to be, I'm going to argue a little reactive because we're getting data after it's been exposed, but it's been critical in helping us, really even push the message with people. And we're like, yeah, you need to change your password again. Well, why? Here's why. Look, well, sorry, so.
As part of those campaigns, have you also seen the threat actors leveraging lookalike ed tech solutions? Like, it looks like it's related to a particular ed tech solution you guys might use?
Right now we're seeing the infamous, I'm blanking on the terminology, the card, right? The gift card, the gift card.
Gift card.
Yeah.
We've had a Chancellor 2 months and there's been crazy campaigns, text campaigns. Hey, I'm the Chancellor. Can you do me? I mean, they follow the same script they've been following for 5 years. It's mind blowing, right? But
We know what they're doing, Isaac.
Works.
They're looking at
I mean-
they're looking at LinkedIn.
oh, okay.
In fact, we you know when we actually had that happen here. I mean, not that it went anywhere, but
Yeah.
you know, new employee and executives or whatever get brought in, and then suddenly some of our our lower end employees, they're getting spam saying that they're this new executive and I need a gift card done. It's
Apparently,
crazy.
I'm always asking for gift
Yeah,
card.
right.
information.
Yeah.
I saw something on LinkedIn. If your CEO is asking for a gift card, your CEO, it's not your
It's
CEO.
not your
Mhm.
Like,
Yeah.
if I could get people to
Right.
recognize that,
Yeah.
but it's
So, but Isaac, what do you do in that? What the colleges do in that scenario where you have lots of students registering with their student accounts on these non-university approved? I don't even know if there's you consider
I
non-university
mean,
approved.
one of the best things we've done, and this goes back many years, is we're completely segmented, right? 2 separate domains. So, the students become less risky. And as we're moving towards a zero approach, we're moving everybody off the domain, come here not long from now. We will, we'll be, everybody's endpoint will be off the domain. So I think that, the real, that has been our biggest saving grace. So when, we get 2,000 students out there, yes, we have a process to work through them all. But once again, when we start talking about prioritization, and the impact is not as heavy there as it is on the staff side. But I think that's number one. If you have everybody mixed together, I don't know. I mean, it's you're now sitting here fighting fires, and I think you have a lot of that out there still, right? Because it's easier, and what's easy is not always what is best.
Absolutely.
Right. So,
Yeah.
Do you do any sort of awareness
We do.
campaigns to the students?
So we are launching our first student awareness. So we work with Ningio is who we work with for our so we do monthly micro training, 4-minute, entertaining, short, memorable. The issue is trying to get everybody to take it. They've actually provided a cool opportunity for us to train our students. It's not tracked, but it's, what we did is we picked 4 of the most common things attacking students, and we have a web page out there, and we're able to, get in front of our students and say, hey, there's a resource out there. Watch these 4 short videos. They're not just going to help you here. They're going to help you probably even more so in your personal life. So yes, we are at the early stages of rolling.
And what's the name of that technology? I want to make sure the viewers get
Ningio. Ningio
Ningio.
is the cybersecurity awareness platform we use, and so they handle our monthly training as well as our simulated phishing attacks, all of the above. And it's fun. It's short, 4 minutes a month. It's entertaining, and it's very on par with what's going on right now. Right? You had Change Healthcare, and surprise, surprise, the next month was very much related to Change Healthcare. That's what I think they are amazing at, is staying very relevant.
awesome. Great.
Trends.
Yep.
Well, thanks
almost
everybody
like having a monthly report that goes over all the KEVs.
Right, there you go. Right there you
Yeah.
go.
Well, we'll look forward to publishing the other report and doing another podcast in the future related to this. Thank you for your time, everybody. Isaac, for anybody who wants to connect with you, what's the best way that they can get in touch with you if they got questions?
I mean, definitely contact me on LinkedIn, Isaac Abbs on LinkedIn, pretty easy to find. I don't have the URL readily available. I wasn't expecting that question, but and then you could also obviously reach out to me via email, ilabbs@pima, that's pima.edu.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Isaac. We look forward to connecting with you again in the future.
Likewise.
Thanks, Eric. Thanks, Victor.
Have a good
Thank
one.
you.
Bye.
Thanks, Isaac. Bye.